Hi, this is Jerry Ludlow's painting channel, where today you will learn how to paint a still life with lots of abstract shapes, and all the information about my materials and methods are in the description below. Now, the subject is a classic design. There's a wine bottle, fruit and a cup with bright light shining from the right to create wonderful shadows. Now, I've done the drawing beforehand, and I've used quite heavy lines with a 2B pencil for you to copy. I'm using a large palette, which is a John Pike palette, which enables me to make large puddles of paint to dip into as I go. And the first colour that I'm working in with a small mop brush is Raw Umber. Very watery. This is going to be a first wash, and I've penciled in some of the areas where I want to keep it free from paint. I do like a few white areas to be left as I go, and if I pencil them in, if they're large ones, it just reminds me not to paint the whole area. As you can see, I've left some there, and I will continue to try and leave these throughout the washes. I'm just going around, firstly putting in a wash with the Raw Umber. Quite a watery wash, this one, keeping those lines straight where the tabletop is and the corner of the wall where the bottle is. I'm not going to be using very many colours in this painting. This is Neutral Tint, using a little bit of a thicker mixture, going straight over the Raw Umber, which is called Wet in Wet. If you're going to be doing Wet and Wet, you have to work quite fast, and it would be an idea if you could make the pools of paint up beforehand. Now I'm adding some other colours, burnt sienna. These will all dry up very much lighter. Just left an area to the bottom left there, just an abstract shape to add interest to the painting. Remember, we're not taking a photograph. This is a painting, and we can do what we like. Using a smaller brush, still working in with the neutral tint. Everything's still very wet. And some more dark colours, Payne's grey. Not overly fussed, making sure that my lines are accurate here to keep that tabletop line going. But this will be painted over again. And then just really just randomly putting in dark shapes. Try not to make too much of it, which will look better in the finished painting. If you're too fussy, it will show. Keeping that nice line going against the light. dark against light. Be very effective. And very dark where the table, the side of the table is. And just really using these four colours throughout this first wash. And using the puddle of paint, which is a neutral tint, and adding some water. As you can see with this large palette, it gives me the ability to have lots of paint left to dip into, rather than using the actual paints straight out of the palette. Just want to emphasize the bottle here, so I put my first watery wash, and this is pure water, just to lose those edges. I don't want hard edge there. I do have the board tilted slightly to let the paint run down. This is the original mixture of Raw Umber, very watery, just to get me going with this. Right hand side. Once again, I made a few marks to keep some white areas there. I quite like to do that. I think it's just my style, and I think it looks effective. Much more interesting than a flat wash all over. Once again, same 3 or 4 colours that I've been using. This is burnt sienna. Been very careful around the top of this cup and the handle. Using a medium synthetic brush. Has a nice point, very good for putting in lines. As you can see, I've left some areas untouched, trying to make the areas look the same, vary them a bit. This is quinacridone gold, and putting in the shadow side of the orange. Working away on as many areas as I can before I dry anything, off. And this is the mug that would be a very light colour, could even be white, with the shadows. This is the shadow side of it, and as you can see, the dark side of the shadow against the light side of the fruit is very effective. And then the first wash, where the shadow is going to be, where the objects are on the tabletop. And painting inside the handle of the mug and the top of the mug. going quite dark. Payne's grey. Just being mindful of where the shadows are. This is a classic setup that I've done here, but it's worth you trying other other things as well. Bowls of fruit, flowers. But I've done this because it's a simple subject. Just going to start on the bottle. I've got Hooker's green here, which is needs to be watered down a bit and colours added to it. It'll overtake the painting if I was to put it on its own. Just toning it down a bit. And I have marked the reflections on the bottle, or where the white would be on the bottle, and I'm carefully going to paint around it. Varying the green. Everything here is going to be painted over again. Just using a smaller brush for this, just another pointed synthetic brush. None of the brushes that I'm using here are very expensive. But I have chosen brushes that have still got their nice point. A lot of today's cheaper synthetic brushes keep a nice point for quite a long time. You don't always have to go out and buy sable. And putting in the central part of the bottle just by going over it with a clean tissue to achieve another reflection, making that green lighter. And the bottle top too, putting in the shadow side on the left. And putting in the label. As you can see, I'm using these pools of paint that are there already, just occasionally adding to them if need be. Putting it in this instance, put a little bit of burnt sienna on the left hand side, just to break up that label, make it more interesting. And now the the paint on the fruit has dried a bit now, so I'm going over it again with burnt sienna. Once again, working wet in wet. And when you do work wet in wet, when you go over it with a darker colour, make sure it's just a bit thicker consistency. And now going over the shadow area again while the fruit's still wet, so it just merges into one. And I'm just taking off the pencil marks. While the paint's dry, although the top part of that painting was just a little bit damp. I'll show you how to rectify that if you get paint on the white and you'd like to get you don't want it there. But I'll just be using a putty rubber, which is quite a soft moldable. You can make shapes with it with your hand. It's so soft, and it doesn't damage the surface of the watercolour painting, which is most important if you're going to be painting over the area again. You don't want areas where the paint soaks into. You want the area undamaged. But I don't want pencil marks showing, so I'm getting rid of them. Now if you're using clean water here, an old brush, just putting it onto the paint that I don't want at the top of the painting, and just scrubbing it a bit with this old brush, and then going straight in with a tissue, and it's gone. That will dry out and you won't see it. Didn't want those smudges there. Going in again, neutral tint, nice and thick. Be mindful of those edges, keeping those edges, keeping the line quite straight, although I will put in a few flecks here and there just to vary it. And keeping those white flecks in as well. Painting around those areas that I marked with a pencil in the first place. And putting in the same colours again. Burnt sienna, quite watery, covering all the paper. And just putting in a blurred effect with the tissue. Very abstract. Do your own version of this. I just really do what feels right at the time. And still using these puddles of paint that are on my palette. as you can see, as it's getting darker now, the shadows really bring it to life. Going in with some Payne's grey, nice and thick, straight from the well, wet in wet. I'm putting in these darks along the table edge. I'm just putting in some little flecks, just breaking that line where the table edge is. Just putting a few little flecks with the brush. All adds to that kind of abstract look. I don't want anything to look too perfect. The picture will get very clear in a minute. The studio's quite damp on these cold mornings, and it affects the lens of the camera. Going over again, Payne's grey, and putting in some Raw Umber just to break it up. Don't want areas of the same colour. This is a washy one, a wishy-washy one. And going back yet again to the edge of the cup, edge of the mug. Very dark colours. And take your time, very slow, around the handle. Medium synthetic brush. Just a regular round brush. And with this brush, I'm just putting on clean water to lose those hard edges. Just putting in some shapes with this brush. and making this edge darker again by the right hand side of the bottle. I'll be doing the same method again, going in with the darker colours, neutral tint, and then softening the edge with clean water. Brings up the edge of the bottle quite nicely with the light against dark, dark against light. And finally finishing off with a little bit of colour on the top of the fruit there. Really bring that out. And then putting in some blue. This is cobalt blue on the label of the bottle. That's Raw Umber on the left side of the bottle. And using it again for the right hand side, the lighter part of the bottle. Just switching to smaller brushes for the painting around the mug. As you can see, I've created the image of the mug by painting the outside edges. And that's really come to life now, especially the area where the handle is. Just notice that the left hand edge of the mug was just, the paint was just a bit wet next to it, and it was just merging into it. I want a nice crisp edge on this mug on the left hand side. Now I've just dried the painting off and also cleared the lens, which is a bit misty. I'm just trying to add to the reflections showing on the curved part of the bottle. Please subscribe if you can. Just help me make more videos. Thank you. There's going to be lots more paintings, and if you haven't seen my others, I cover very many different subjects. Worth taking a look. Just going around the painting, looking where I need to make improvements and where I need to put more darks in. As you can see, I've gone over areas 3 times, and sometimes, as in the shadow on the right hand side of the bottle, went over that 4 times, which I could have probably done less if I'd have gone on with darker paint in the first instance. A nice broken edge on this orange, which is just being left white on the right hand side. And a nice dark shadow. Working very slowly. Just want to make sure these particular parts are accurate. You can get away with abstract in other areas, but the shadows really need to be quite accurate for everything to look real. Just loosen that edge there to the top of the table. The tablecloth is just breaking up with very small marks on the surface of the white. Too much white there. Just needed something to make it just a little bit more interesting. A nice crisp line on the edge of the mug where it meets the where you can see the wall in the background. And then using a very thick mixture at the top of the mug, and much more watery as it comes down, and it meets the fruit and the shadow at the bottom. And just working on the fiddly bits. A slight shadow on the handle of the mug. Now I'm going to be doing what I call spatter, which is putting in a few spots of paint. I've got some old scraps of paper, so I don't want it going everywhere. And I'm going to be loading up a paintbrush with burnt sienna, trying to make it as watery as I can, and then tapping it against a palette knife. Don't go too mad, don't want too many spots, but just to make it an interesting surface. Just adds interest to the painting, makes it all look very abstract and arty. That's a good word, arty. And just before I finish, having a look around at bits that I've missed. Shadow on the bottle. need to lose that edge on the left hand side. Catches the eye too much. Nice and dark on the bottom of the bottle as well. That's far too light. Wasn't happy with that. Let that merge in with that shadow. And then the nice dark against light. Again, put in a few little flicks. And adjusting the shadows. Nice watery wash there, neutral tint, mostly water, just to lose that hard edge. And taking off the tape. And there we are, still live. I'll be doing more of these soon, so you can come back and see more. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye bye.